Retirement. You hear so much about retirement. What are you going to do for retirement? Well, there was a time that people didn't retire, they died. And they died at 62, they died at 63, they died at 58. You look at Franklin Roosevelt, you know, he looked like the Ancient of Days, and I think he was only about 62 or something when he died. Lyndon Johnson was quite young when he died. And so when they set up Social Security, hardly anybody got to 65. So right now, but thanks to the advances in medicine and nutrition and other things, people are living a lot longer. And that is a good thing, but it can be a bad thing. So when it comes to growing old in America, there is good news and there is bad news. Workers are living longer, but unfortunately, they're not saving enough for that so-called golden age retirement. And that could mean very unpleasant consequences.
When it comes to retirement, most Americans work until around age 65, some even longer. But when it comes to saving for retirement, most workers come up short.
I don't think I'll ever retire, but I think it's a question of money. I don't, Social Security benefits are unreliable. So we're going to have to stay really healthy and really active.
According to research, more than half of American households risk not having saved enough to maintain their standard of living in retirement.
I haven't saved enough for retirement. I think I'm going to work as long as I can.
A new report. 66 million Americans do not have enough savings to cover 6 months' worth of expenses. Peter Marisi, come back, please. I think it looks to me like we're in a paycheck-to-paycheck society. Many of those people are dependent on credit. But my question is it getting worse?
I don't know that it's getting worse. I think it's the way Americans always were. You know, if you go down to Monticello, where Tom Jefferson lived, you realize he was the first American credit card customer. He was constantly in hock up to his ears, and that's why he went bankrupt. And Americans have been living that way ever since. But you had an earlier story about Netflix. Now you understand why raising the price by 25%, even though it's $2 a month, has an impact. People that are living, the average income in this family income in this country is $58,000 a year. With 2 kids and 2 adults, that's not a whole lot of money. So as a consequence, they do live paycheck to paycheck. It has to do with our expectations. We consume too much of the wrong things. But still, that's just the way Americans are.
We're actually at all-time lows in workforce participation. So the labor market is not raining men, that old song from the 70s. But listen, the average American is being squeezed right now. Incomes are barely growing. Their expenses are growing, particularly health care. Yes. Thank you, Obamacare. Yes. And tuition. Thank you, government intervention. That's why there's such angst out there. It's why on the left, Sanders has traction, and on the right, Trump.
28% of Americans who have no confidence they will have enough money to retire comfortably. Jack Vanderhei says that's the worst confidence level in the study's history.
We find that about 44% of the households will run short of money in retirement. And it's even worse if you look at the low-income quartile. In that case, it's over 60% will run short of money sometime in retirement.
Vanderhei says many expect to live off Social Security benefits and depend on Medicare to cover doctor's bills. However, Social Security is on track to run out by 2033.
Within 2 decades, we're looking at a situation where the trust fund itself is likely to be depleted. That doesn't mean, as some people unfortunately think, that means no Social Security benefits, but it does mean that there will be only enough money available to pay about 72 to 75% of what was promised.
When the Social Security Trust Fund was introduced in the 1930s, life expectancy didn't even reach the retirement age of 65. Life expectancy in 1930 added up to only 58 years for men and 62 for women. That formula became quickly outdated, and over the next 60 years, the number of seniors exploded. In the 30s, only 6.7 million Americans lived to be 65 or older. By the year 2000, that number grew to almost 35 million. Currently, 58 million Americans receive Social Security benefits, and the government's not prepared to cover the country's growing cost of retirement. So people like Tamara Rowe are preparing.
Maxing out my retirement accounts, the thrift savings plan. I also have a Roth IRA.
Rose started putting away for her golden years while in her 20s.
I started at 25. I guess because I've always hung around people who were older than I, and so back when I was 25, if you read the business section of the newspaper, you would hear people weren't saving enough for retirement. Then I hear now it's worse.
Worse, but not too late, says Vanderhyde.
It's a crisis that could be solved if people would realize their future plight today and start doing something about it.
For the Dumars, that something has always been clear.
Ultimately, maybe we're heading back to the point where we have to trust ourselves and rely on ourselves as opposed to someone else coming in to save us. And a lot of people are really, I think, counting too much on the government to save the day. You know, the government is very short-term oriented, and all the politicians are just concerned about the next election. They're not concerned about how things are going to be for our kids or our grandchildren or for the future of the country.
Calling all millennials with money, are you building your retirement nest eggs without a 401k? Well, you're not alone. Millennials with financial resources say that they're more likely to rely on their savings accounts in 20 years versus 401ks, according to a new report from Bank of America's Merrill Edge. But Gen Xers and baby boomers think their 401k accounts and pensions are more reliable. Let's bring in Ramsey Solutions financial expert and author of Retire Inspired. Chris Hogan is with us this morning. What do you make of these generation gaps?
Well, I think as you take a look at it, we need to understand that saving is good. That's a good thing, but investing is better. I mean, we have to take advantage of the tools available to be able to grow your money, like 401ks and 403bs. I mean, and math proves my point. If we look at the national average on a savings account, you're talking about 0.06%. And Maria, if we look at investing, you can be anywhere from 8 to 10% in growing your money. And so we have to understand this, and there's a role for savings versus a different role you take investing to be able to grow your money.
Chris, it's Lindsay Bell here. You know what blows my mind about this survey is that there is no 401k investments by these millennials. Do they not understand what a 401k is? It's pre-tax money that you're saving. And if your company has a match, they're giving you free money. I don't understand. What don't they understand?
I think it's just a general lack of knowledge, not understanding how money works. Listen, I've been a financial coach. I have sat with people for almost 15 years now, walking them through how to grow your money and how to properly prepare. And not utilizing a 401k, you're absolutely right. You're missing out on the opportunity for company match, which is free money, versus the opportunity to grow your money, which uses compound interest in time. Hopefully, I can get through to these millennials. Hopefully, we can start to look at this and help everyone know, millennials, Gen Xers, as well as Gen Y. But if we look at this, I looked at a study by Go Banking Rates. According to them, 67% of millennials had less than $1,000 saved. 46% had nothing saved. So I think this article is just looking at the more affluent millennials that are looking at savings. Now, listen, don't get me wrong. Having a savings account is a good thing. That's where you want to keep your emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses. But you don't want to have a whole lot of money camped out in a savings account at 0.06%. Your money is not in the game. If your money's not in the game, it's on a sideline. That means it's not growing.